Hey guys, this is AlwaysDizzy, also known as Modulus the Gamer. Um, so this is probably going to be a pretty long video, but I'll try to make it as short as possible, but I'm pretty good at rambling on, so just a warning there for you. Um, so so basically, I've never been good. I've never been very good at calculating and tactics, um, and I kind of realized not that long ago that one of the things that was really been holding me back from improving has been my very poor calculating and tactical skills. I've basically done virtually no practice on tactics other than a few puzzles here and there um, on the Lichess tactics, um, the Lichess puzzle area. But I've spent maybe a total of like 20 hours doing tactics in my life up till now, and which is kind of funny because I actually I kind of climbed to about 2100 lead chats without doing any tactics practice before. But as I say, I've noticed that my tactics have been so weak, and I had to do something about it. So I purchased the Woodpecker Method on Chessable after hearing a lot about it, and it sounded pretty interesting to me. So I bought the course on Chessable, and I've been working on it daily ever since I purchased it 3 months ago. Um, as with most things I do, I'm a meticulous record keeper, and I like to do things at 100% effort. Um, and so I created a pretty sophisticated spreadsheet tracking and analysis system to track my efforts with the Woodpecker method. And I'm going to kind of share how my progress has been so far. Um, so I'm not going. So first, I'll explain what the Woodpecker method is. What the wood it's hard to say that quickly. What the Woodpecker method is, briefly, but I'm not going to get into major detail in it. If you want to know more, you can kind of read more about that yourself. The course itself isn't very expensive. I think it's like around $30 or so on Chessable, um, and or you could purchase a book somewhere as well. I would recommend the Chessable course though, because you can do it so much more, much faster and more efficiently. But basically, what it is it's primarily it's a set of puzzles, and there's different. The book consists of easy, intermediate, and advanced puzzles. There's around, I forget, about 1100 or so in the book, and the whole method is actually very simple. It's essentially it's doing the same set of puzzles over and over again until you kind of build them into your muscle memory. And it just becomes second nature, and it becomes just pattern recognition after a while. That's the basis of the method. Um, Now there's a few nuances in there that, so for example, there's like there's penalty points, like you only score partial points depending on if you get the first move correct or not, and there's a few little other things about the method that makes it a little bit more complicated, but really that's essentially what it is. It's basically just repeating the same set of puzzles over and over again. So in that sense, you actually don't need to buy the book, because I kind of just revealed the whole book to you. But the book has the puzzles are all from world champions in the book. They're all hand curated, selected, and so they're actually, you could argue, of a much better, higher quality of puzzles than you would find in, let's say, a random like lead chess puzzle that you might happen across. Okay, let me think here. Yeah, so that's kind of what the Woodpecker method is, and okay, let me just jump over to Chessable here. I should have brought a glass of water here with me. So yeah, as I mentioned, the book is it's split up into different degrees of varying difficulty. So there's 223 easy puzzles. I should also mention that the book, each set goes in chronological order of world champions, from like the first world champion of William Steinitz all the way up to Magnus Carlsen. So you actually get to do puzzles from the entire spectrum of world champions, which is pretty cool. But yeah, so there's 223 easy puzzles, and then the intermediate section, which consists of, which makes up the core of the whole puzzle, the whole amount of puzzles in the book, is actually split up into 3 sections because there's so many of them. So there's the first section is 255, and then another 255, and then 254. And then there are the advanced puzzles at the end. There's 145 of those. So the difficulty of them, they do range. The easy ones are still fairly difficult, but they are significantly easier than the intermediate ones. It's a little bit hard for me to describe how difficult they are because everybody's tactical ability will be different. For example, my tactics is very poor. So, but just off the top of my head, I would say the easy ones might be good for people, let's say Lichess rated, let's say, I don't know, 1500 to, I don't know, to 2000 even. I mean, well, or 1900. Yeah, let's say 1500 to 1900. Lichess, that's kind of what I would say that this would be suitable for. The intermediate ones, and I should mention that they do get progressively harder. At least that's what I've found. So the first section is a little bit easier than the second section, and so on. I would say these are good for, like, you probably want to be at least like 1800 Lichess, and then they're probably good all the way up to like even like 2500 Lichess or higher, because there's a lot of extremely difficult ones in there. I was curious, and I sent a bunch of them to my 2400 FIDE coach, and while he got a lot of them bang on, some of them stumped him. So yeah, they're definitely extremely challenging, and you probably want to be around, I would say, a minimum of about 1800 Lichess to try to tackle them. The advanced ones I haven't done yet, so unfortunately I cannot comment on those, but I'm going to guess you probably want to guess, you probably want to be, I'm going to predict like at least 2100 Lichess, and they're probably good all the way up to like Grandmaster. That's my guess. So that's kind of the difficulty range of them. Okay. Ooh, 8-minute video already. Okay. So how have I found them, and has it helped me so far? So first of all, as you can see on Chessable, I've done the easy, intermediate, and I'm just touching on the third section of intermediate right now. Though I've done it a little bit different than the course suggests. I did the easy ones, and I did like 5 full cycles of easy, and on this one I did like 7 cycles, and I did 8 cycles here, and I'm currently just finishing the first cycle here. So I've basically, instead of doing the full set in one go and then repeating that one over and over, I've been doing them in chunks. And so like I know the easy ones and the first 2 sections of intermediate very well now. And now I'm doing it on intermediate, and then I'll do advanced. What I plan to do after I've finished my cycles on advanced, I'm then going to do the full like 1100 or however many puzzles there are in one go, like in one stretch, and then I will repeat those. Yeah. Okay. So let me go back to my spreadsheet here. And in this video, I'm probably going to post this on a few places like Chessable and Reddit. And I'm going to provide this spreadsheet for free. I spent a lot of time on it. There's a lot of stuff going on in the back end, a lot of very complicated formulas and so on, and Google Apps Script. And I even have it set up so that it will if you want, it will pull in your lead chess data, your ratings, and it will plot those along too. So you can actually see how your rating has been affected depending on, based on how long you've been doing the Woodpecker method, and kind of chart that out and graph it out. I should be on a different screen here so that you can see. Yeah, so for example here, which I'll show you later. And that's an optional thing. But yeah, so anyways, because I've streamed myself showing this before while I've done the Woodpecker method, and people have shown a lot of interest in it. So yeah, I am giving this away. And if you do decide to use it and get a copy of it, since it is free, I would appreciate if you followed me on Twitch or YouTube, or subscribe on YouTube. And hey, if you want to throw $1 or $2 my way, I wouldn't mind that either. But no pressure there. It's completely free. So, and I wrote out some specific instructions on how to use it and everything like that. So, okay, so let me show you how things have gone for me. So, as I said, I started with easy, and then I did intermediate section A, and then intermediate section B, and so on. So on easy, before I go to the graphs, let's start here. So let me even just start here. So for cycle 1 on the easy section, there were 223 puzzles. And so I started back in May, so 3 months ago so 3 months ago I started, and each row is a different section. I'm sorry if it's a little small here for you on video. I could increase the zoom, but I'm not gonna. So the first session I spent 50 minutes, and I managed to do each puzzle in an average of about 1.5 minutes, and it was a pretty good accuracy. And so actually the easy puzzle set is actually not that difficult. You just get, because you can kind of see here, and then it gets a little bit, some of them might be more difficult than others. I think this might have been the Mikhail Tal section, so it was more difficult. But my accuracy was pretty good for the first cycle, as you can see. So that took me it actually only took me 2 days to finish, which I don't remember it being that easy, but okay. So yeah, so the easy section really wasn't that difficult. And if we go to the overview page, it kind of summarizes how that went. So cycle 1, I spent a total of 306 minutes, which works out to 5 hours. So I completed the first cycle of easy in 5 hours, and it was took me an average of 1 minute 22 seconds per puzzle, and with an accuracy of 83%. And then cycle 2, so the second time I did the easy section, we can see an improvement of, look at that, I actually halved the time it took to complete them. So instead of it taking 5 hours, it took me, almost half. So just under 3 hours in cycle 2. And I improved the accuracy by 7%. And we can see I knocked off another hour on cycle 3. And then you start to get diminishing returns. But you can see by cycle 5, I was able to do each puzzle in an average of 14 seconds compared to 1 minute and 22 seconds with a 93% accuracy. So if we go up and look at the graphs, you can kind of see the minutes. So by cycle 1 and cycle 5, just how much faster I'm able to do them. And the accuracy goes up. And my lead chess rating, since it was only spread over 2 days, it's pretty flatlined here. And this was kind of interesting. The speed increase cycle over cycle. So basically the differential from cycle to cycle on how much faster each cycle has gotten is pretty, it's kind of a trend there. Like it was 42%, and then it's slowly, as I said, there's kind of a diminishing return there. But so you do get faster each time, but then the percentage that you get faster seems to reduce. So then I started the intermediate A section, which was significantly harder, and we'll go there here. Let me open up how the first one went. Okay, so we can see I started that on May 9th, and already it was about 3 times harder because it took me about 3 minutes per puzzle. and with an accuracy of 63%. You can already see how much more difficult that is. And if I just hide that sheet, we go down here. So yeah, so cycle 1 here, it took me 13 and a half hours. So it took twice as long as the easy set. And the accuracy was only 56%. So big difference there, like 13 and a half hours. But then look at cycle 2. I knocked off what, 4.5 hours between cycle 1 and cycle 2. The other thing I should mention is when I've done the Woodpecker Method, I didn't follow the advice of the book and take a day off between repeating the set and doing another cycle. I don't fully believe in that, that you need a rest day. So I didn't do it. But anyways, moving on. And like, look at this, cycle 3, we're already down to 5 hours. And you can just see that progression. Like it's faster every single time. And so again, the first cycle took me an average of 3 minutes and 11 seconds per puzzle. And then by cycle 7, I was getting them in 22 seconds. And that's not just the first move. Like some of the puzzles in the intermediate set, they're 10 moves long. And in fact, I would say the average puzzle is maybe like 6 to 7 moves. Yeah, maybe about 7 moves long. So you actually have to move them. It takes a little bit of time. You have to wait for the chessable page to load. And so some of that time is factored in there. So 22 seconds is actually quite fast. And look at the accuracy. Started at 56% and gradually increased to 91%, and getting them in 22 seconds. So if again, just looking at the graph, this was intermediate A. You can just see how much faster it gets. The half-life really makes it, again, diminishing returns, but just look how much faster that is. And the accuracy really shot up too. Here you can see the lead chess rating did not increase, but we're talking about a 3-week period here, and I wouldn't really expect to see a correlation between, like, I don't really expect your rating to actually improve after just this amount of time. And this is a speed increase cycle over cycle. And then let's look at intermediate section B, which was even harder. So if I go to the first cycle here, so you can kind of see like the first section, it's kind of in line with section A, I guess, but it took a longer period of time. Maybe it didn't. It took about 3 weeks again. So if we go here, so this is the intermediate section 2. So I started this on June 3rd, and the first section took 14 and a half hours, so even harder than the previous section, and with a 61% accuracy. What's interesting on this one is in cycle 2, I only increased the time by 1 hour. And in the previous sections, I had a much better improvement in the second cycle, but that could be due to a number of things. Perhaps in the first cycle, I wasn't calculating or focusing as much as I should have been. But yeah, so I only increased 1 hour in the second cycle, but then by cycle 3, I had a huge improvement there, knocking off 5 hours, and then knocking off another 3 hours, and another 3 hours, and another hour, and it got really fast. So this was pretty incredible. So I did 8 cycles on this one, and I started with an average of 3.5 minutes. And by the 8th cycle, I got it down to 11 seconds, which is pretty much instant. Because again, the loading time of chessable, the fact that you have to make like 9 or 10 different moves, that's pretty much instant. So again, like the first cycle and even second cycle, I'm spending a long time per puzzle. And then by the 8th cycle, I can pretty much, I look at the puzzle and I know exactly the move and the idea. So that was actually very fun to do. And that's something I guess I wanted to mention. On the harder sections, the first and second cycles are absolutely brutal, because the puzzles are actually extremely difficult. it's just brutal to go through them because, like, for example, the first cycle took me 14 and a half hours of total time. And it's not really, they're not fun. It's just pure work, at least for me. And cycle 2 is not much better because you get a little bit faster, but just a tiny bit. But once you start getting to cycle 3 and so on, then you start to remember the ideas and the motifs in the positions. And wait, sorry, I've got two cameras here. Which one am I supposed to be looking into? This one here? This one, okay. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so once you start to get cycle 3 and so on, it actually starts to get really fun because again, you start to remember the ideas and the motifs in the puzzle, and so some of it you start to rely a bit less on calculation and more on memory, and then once you get into the later cycles, you're going like pretty much entirely off of memory, which is good and bad. So I'm not entirely sure about that because these, like, a lot of the positions are so specific in nature, you might not run across them again. Other positions you can definitely find and create in your games. So the pattern recognition is useful for certain puzzles. Other ones, I feel that the puzzles are so position specific that it might not really help. But yeah, again, so the way I look at it is basically like the first 2 cycles, you're heavily relying on calculation. It's like 99% calculation. So you really get to hone your calculating skills there. And then by the time you do the last few cycles, it's almost entirely memory based. So you kind of get to practice both aspects there. But yeah, this was pretty incredible because again, the first cycle took me 14 and a half hours. I mean, look at it. It took me close to 3 weeks to do the first cycle. By the time I did the 8th cycle here, it took me 45 minutes. Like I did it in one session. So like from 3 weeks to 45 minutes, that's incredible. At least I think it is. And the accuracy went from 61% to 98%. So again, I was knocking these out like instantly. I was knocking out these really complicated puzzles instantly with pretty much 100% accuracy. And so yeah, these are the graphs here. My Lichess rating stayed the same. And this is my accuracy here. So more recently, I started intermediate cycle C. So this one here, the last section of intermediate, and looking for that. Okay, so here it is. I haven't finished it yet. You can see I'm currently 67% done. So I started on July 20th, and look at this. The first 3, like it took me an 8.5 minutes per puzzle. If we go back to the easy, it took me a minute and a half, and intermediate 3 took me 8.5 minutes. These are really difficult. These are very, very difficult puzzles. But maybe that's just me. Maybe you guys try it out and you guys don't think they're that difficult. But for me, they're very difficult. And we can see that I've been working on this now for I don't know how long that is, 3 weeks, I guess. And my average time is 5 minutes per puzzle. And my accuracy is about 60% average. So these are really, really difficult. And this is excruciating. It's not fun because they're just so hard. But again, that's because I'm at cycle 1. Cycle 1 is always the hardest, or the least fun. If I go to the overview page for it, there's no other cycles to compare because I haven't done them yet. But we can just see the overview. So I'm 2/3 done. Again, with an average time of 5 minutes per puzzle and accuracy of 58%. So my projected completion time here is 21.5 hours. So I have about 7 hours left before I finish cycle 1. Yeah, so 21 is going to be take about 21 hours to finish, and which means once I start cycle 2, maybe I'll only knock off an hour or 2 after that, and it's just going to be more agonizing pain. But I know that eventually I will get to like cycle 7 or at 8, and I'm going to start knocking these out in like 15 seconds, or maybe not that fast, but maybe 15 seconds, 15 to 20 seconds each. They're just going to be pretty much instant once I do them enough. And it's pretty amazing because, again, right now it's just like 5 minutes each is just crazy. And then I'm going to, when I finish that, I will tackle the advanced ones, which I'm terrified of. The only nice thing about the advanced ones is there's only 145 of them. There's not 255. So that might make up for how difficult they might end up being. And then once I finish that, I'm going to start doing all, like, the entire set from easy to advanced in one big stretch, which actually shouldn't, I don't think it'll be that bad, because I should be at that point, I should be pretty familiar with each position. So I'm curious how that will go. And eventually I would like to, I'm going to plan on keep doing the full set over and over again until I can just get them super fast. And then I would like to do them, because the ultimate goal of the book is for you to do the full set in a day. And I know that some other people have made YouTube videos of this. I know the international master Kostya Kavutsky did this, and he did it in about 7.5 hours, I think. He also did it fairly casually because he was streaming it, so he was responding to people and so on. So he probably could have done it faster, but that's kind of my benchmark goal, is to kind of beat 7.5 hours eventually. So I might do that one day. That's kind of my ultimate goal. But that's still a ways away. Okay, so just my final thoughts. So far, like, I'm sticking with it, and I still think it's a little bit too early. I think it's too early to come to a conclusion of if this helped me or not, because I feel that in order for this to really become proper pattern recognition, and for you to be able to do it instantly, that you have to do the full stretch over and over again until you're just doing them super fast with, like, pretty much 100% accuracy. And I'm not there yet. So, but so far, and I would say I'm a bit over halfway done. I would say I'm a bit over halfway done here. And by the way, I spent a total of 74 hours on Woodpecker training so far. So 74 hours over 3 months. And yeah, but so far I haven't noticed any improvement from it. My rating hasn't improved during that time. If anything, it's actually gone down slightly, but I think that might be due to other reasons. That being said, I have noticed in some games there are a few positions from the Woodpecker method that I can't get out of my head now, and as soon as I see them in the game, like, I go for it. An example is creating a battery so that you can play, like, knight takes f7 and then take on e6. That's like one tactical motif that I'll never forget for the rest of my life. And then there's a few other ones. One of my favorite ones, and there's not too many of them in the course, but is like a clearance sacrifice. For some reason, I find those so beautiful. So there's a few in there that I really recognize. And another thing is, I've kind of noticed in some of my games, I'm a little bit more confident in how, like, in spotting tactics and employing them. And I also find I'm slightly more aggressive in some situations, because I might spot that I'm like, okay, there might be a tactic here. Like, I'm a little bit more tactical aware. But other than those things, I do think it's a little bit premature to come to a conclusion. And if I did have to come to a conclusion right now, I would honestly say that I haven't noticed an improvement in my play from all of my Woodpecker training. But as I say, I don't think it's fair to do that yet, because I have to do the full course properly and very quickly. Then it would be very fair to make a conclusion. So that's how it's gone for me. Again, you can feel free to use this spreadsheet for your own purposes as well. And maybe let me know how you have done with the Woodpecker method and if you think it's helped you. Yeah, anyways, that's it from me. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions. See you next time.